we are joined also by many of our wonderful commissioners, so I will ask our commissioners to please stand, if you are not already standing. All right, and we have many local and municipal leaders. Raise your hand or stand if you would. Thank you so much. All right, and everyone else, if we haven't introduced you, you are very important, and we love you too. And with that, we are going to get on with our business. Mr. Clerk, would there be any business on your desk?
Good afternoon, Madam Governor. The clerk's in possession of Convention Joint Resolution number 38 and 39.
Senator Duff.
Thank you. That's me. Good afternoon, everybody. Madam President, have we stand at ease for one moment, please?
We can stand at ease. Alas, I wanted us to get to right down to business, but indeed, we are in need of praying over very clearly. So, Reverend Thompson, if you would please come forward, because we clearly need the prayers.
She doesn't mind. Friends, on April 4th, 1967, from the prestigious pulpit of the Riverside Church in New York City, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death." In that speech, MLK called for a revolution in values that rejected nationalism and hate, and instead pledged allegiance and devotion to all of humanity. Friends, budgets are so much more than numbers on spreadsheets. Budgets are moral documents which demonstrate what we care about, as well as what and who we're willing to invest in. Let us pray. God, you invest everything in us. You always have, and your promise from generation to generation is that you always will. As this body of legislators now hears from the governor regarding his budgetary priorities and then goes about its work of implementation, may each be filled with your spirit of justice and mercy, so that our state's budget ultimately becomes a living, breathing reflection of the values we hold dear as a community, an example to the nation of what it looks like to live in a state that cares for and supports all its citizens, a state that invests well in its people, a state that wards off spiritual death and instead experiences spiritual revival. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. That was beautiful, Reverend Thompson. And at this time, I would call upon Representative Ritter, the Speaker of the House, to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, please be seated, and we are back. And Mr. Clerk, I will ask again if we have any business on your desk, sir.
Clerk's in possession of Joint Convention Resolutions number 38 and 39.
And Senator Duff, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam President. Madam President, would the clerk please call Joint Convention Resolution number 38, please.
Mr. Clerk.
Joint Convention Resolution number 38, resolution raising a committee to inform the governor that the Senate and the House of Representatives are met in joint convention to receive his budget message.
Senator Duff.
Thank you, Madam President. I move adoption of the resolution.
Thank you, Senator Duff. Will you remark? If not, let me try your minds. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. And at this time, I will appoint majority leaders of the Senate and the House, Senator Duff and Representative Rojas, and the minority leaders of the Senate and House, Senator Harding and Representative Candelora, to invite the governor to attend our joint convention. And the joint convention will stand at ease while the committee discharges its duty.
Well, it's all proportional to population count. They don't need it in Waterbury. Hart Jones fine. Or Milford. They don't need it in Milford. Make the job more challenging, you know? More challenging.
It looks good here, Bob. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great privilege to call us back into joint convention. The appointed committee has fulfilled its duty and is hereby discharged. And it is now my great pleasure to relinquish the podium and introduce our state's fearless leader, Governor Ned Lamont.
Whoa! Hey, thank you, guys. Thanks, Susan. So, for many years, governors would stand at this dais for a budget address, often confronted with a recession for which our state was totally unprepared. And today, we're much better prepared to manage the unexpected within reason, thanks to all of you. So, Mr. President and Mr. Speaker and Senator Harding and Representative Candelora and all the members of the General Assembly and people of the great state of Connecticut, the last few weeks have been turbulent, and we can only guesstimate how changes in Washington will impact our budget over the next few months and few years. Our proposed budget is our best effort to stay true to our Connecticut values while continuing to focus on affordability and opportunity for all. Look, God willing, this will be our 7th and 8th honestly balanced budget, which invests in the future without shortchanging the needs of today. And unlike other states which are cutting back, our budget will increase by over $1 billion in each of the next 2 years, all the while making a transformative investment in early childhood education and another round of tax cuts. All right, so we continue to move away from the days of the permanent fiscal crisis. And by year end, we should have paid down about $10 billion in pension debt. $10 billion. Honoring our promise to you that when you retire, your pension will be there. And all the while reducing the fixed costs, which are crowding out critical investments in our future. And I continue to be a strong believer in the spending cap, which simply restates the obvious. You cannot spend more than you earn. Fortunately, our economic growth is still strong, second only to Maine in the region. They must have been selling a lot of lobsters. And our unemployment rate is the lowest that it has been in 25 years. What that means as a state is that we're earning more, which means our general fund will grow 4.5% in the first year, 4.8% over the next biennium, more than inflation. And I want to give a shout out to each and every one of you, House and Senate, Democrats and Republicans. This wasn't easy, and you've put us in the strongest fiscal footing in many, many a year. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for what you did. So that said, I believe that we have earned the opportunity to rethink our volatility threshold, which are the tax revenues considered too unpredictable to spend on operating expenses that can also create big deficits in the out years. Many of you remember those deficits all too well, and everybody else should. In my State of the State address, I pledged that opportunity and affordability would be our North Star. And speaking of affordability, for countless families, the cost of childcare is not only burdensome, but keeps them out of the workforce. So, in close coordination with Treasurer Russell and Commissioner and Controller Scanlon, I am proposing that we move 3% of the revenue from our pension paydown into the general fund, 3%. And any surplus in the general fund, estimated at $300 million per year, will be deposited into our brand new universal preschool endowment, a universal preschool endowment. This fund will be a down payment on making pre-K and early childhood education affordable and accessible for all of our kids. We will deposit $300 million from our fiscal 2025 surplus to seed this fund, and our budget anticipates a $1 billion endowment over the next few years. God, the economy, and President Trump willing. And this is not an operating account. This is an endowment. And we're building this endowment for the long term with a 10% spend rate. That means we'll have an additional $30 million next year for early childhood, $60 million in 2027, all with the goal of providing pre-K and preschool spaces at no cost for all families earning up to $100,000. No cost. And the subsidy phases down from there. This will save parents thousands of dollars and giving them the freedom to get back to work because parents, our businesses need you. And finally, I appreciate the Blue Ribbon Commission on Early Childhood, co-chaired by Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz and Commissioner Beth Bai, along with the child care advocates. They emphasized not just more spending, but smarter spending. That meant easier accreditation, home-based centers, and better value per caregiver. I'm always sympathetic to smarter spending and our kids. And our endowment also complements things we're already doing right now, at-home nursing support for first-time moms on Medicaid. The most robust paid family and medical leave in the country. And arguably, not with me, the best K-12 schools in the country. Thank you to our teachers. God bless the great Connecticut teachers. People come to this state from all over for our teachers. You gotta like the teachers. Come on, guys. Okay. Yes, we will continue to aggressively pay down our pension debt. But I heard from many of you that we need to expand investments in our younger kids at the same time, and I listened. And I heard from more than a few of you that we should consider a tweak, I heard that a lot, in our pension pay down in order to cut taxes even further. So to date, what have we done together on taxes? We had the biggest middle income tax cut in our state's history. Thank you. We have eliminated the income tax for working families. Thank you. We have eliminated the tax on pensions and Social Security for most of our citizens. Thank you. So our budget proposes another increase in the property tax credit. It was $200 5 years ago, and we were proposing an increase to $350 per homeowner. That's up $50 from last year alone, $350. We're trying to help our mayors and our first selectmen hold the line on property taxes, which are high compared to our peers. We've significantly increased municipal aid over these 8 budgets as well, including investments that have more than doubled funding for pilot grants, more than double funding. And the budget further increases total municipal aid by $230 million in this biennium, another $230 million. But it will take more than state subsidies to get our property taxes under control. An expanding grand list helps, and our cities are growing. And I know it's great to have 169 towns, but it doesn't mean you need 169 building inspectors or 169 purchasing agents. So our budget includes an additional $250,000 for each of our regional councils, the COGs, to assist your town in things like flood control or municipal waste and recycling efforts. Because shared services reduce costs, and reducing costs reduce property taxes. And more state aid to education helps our kids and also helps your budget, mayors. We have proposed an additional $160 million in funding for our schools, $160 million. And that means we have met the legislature's 10-year timeline for ECS increases 2 years early, thanks to your good efforts. And special ed is a promise we make to help our kids with special needs. And I have seen and heard firsthand how a program can make a lifelong difference for these kids. At the same time, we're proposing some cost-saving reforms, including capping out-of-district costs for private providers. Sometimes that additional cost can be up to $150,000. Additionally, we're going to propose $14 million in incentive grants for districts to provide the highest quality special ed programming in district, saving a lot of travel, saving you some money. It's great for the kids. And our fiscal 27 budget includes an additional $40 million to help you subsidize support for these special kids as well. Thank you for stepping up and doing this on behalf of these kids. We love them all. And here I go again. Superintendents are working hard to get the smartphones out of most of the classrooms. Thank you for that. And our budget provides resources to store those phones at the beginning of a phone-free day in phone-free schools. Remember those yonder pouches? And our capital budget includes $500 million for new schools. That's our biggest increase in years. And just ask what those projects mean to students in towns like Torrington, Trumbull, Thompson, New Britain. It shows these kids we care, and we're making an investment in them for the future. And these new schools will also include solar panels and insulation to help reduce costs, and air conditioning and ventilation to keep us safe and to keep you awake. But you can't save souls in an empty church, and you can't learn if you're not in school. And our budget will double down on the LEAP program, which is folks knocking on doors of families whose kids are missing too much school. Maybe it's a teacher or a coach or a friend knocking on that door. And thankfully, it's working. And more of our disconnected kids are coming back to school. But unfortunately, with so much media attention around ICE and mass deportations, some of our kids are staying home and missing school. So our door knockers now have another message at the door. You are safe in our schools. Come back. We miss you. You're safe in our schools. Come back and we miss you. That's another thing. Come back to our schools. You're safe. We miss you. And our budget includes free breakfast for all of our kids as well. Take advantage of it. So speaking of disconnected kids and giving back, our budget continues to build on our Youth Services Corps under the leadership of Thea Montanez. We're trying to better coordinate all the after-school and summer programs that keep our kids busy and useful. And we're including expanded internships and apprentice programs that can make schoolwork more relevant to the real world. And giving back is good for the soul. Our budget doubles down on our commitment to AmeriCorps, which is providing hundreds of starter jobs to support our not-for-profits, our public agencies, our nursing homes, our parks, our summer camps, and our local businesses. And our budget continues our commitment to higher ed, starting with UConn, nationally recognized for world-class education, attracting students from all over the state, all over the country, and around the world. Higher ed is a great competitive advantage for our state and our country. It's the elevator of opportunity for our students, and it's key to our continuing economic growth in terms of workforce and research and development and citizenship. Personally, I believe that the White House tax on higher ed, including temporary freezing of federal grants, is incredibly short-sighted and very damaging. UConn and Connecticut State have excellent faculty, but our colleges must focus on students first. And the importance of higher ed does not exempt our universities from making sure that taxpayers and students are getting the very best value. They should not be immune to reform. And Connecticut State, in particular, must reimagine how we train our students and our workforce for the 21st century. Student population there is down 30%. Most students don't graduate, and costs keep escalating. And the university boards and leadership should be drilling down on the mix of courses and size of lectures and teaching load. You can't teach innovation if you're hesitant about innovating. In working with CT State and UConn and Yale and our other colleges, this budget will make a $100 million investment in key quantum computing and artificial intelligence applications to keep our key industries ahead of the curve, including life sciences and fintech. What else are we doing? Connecticut Innovations, led by Matt McCoo, is announcing a $50 million quantum AI fund in some of our most promising startups. Our budget increases the biotech research and development tax credit from 65% to 90%. And it eliminates the capital stock tax, so startups that have no profits can raise capital without getting taxed on it. And I got to keep reminding businesses and students, you hire a Connecticut grad, we pay your business to pay down their student debt. We pay that business to pay down your student loan. That's another reason for you to stay here in Connecticut, and it's another reason for our Connecticut businesses to hire right here in Connecticut. Take advantage of that. So, college or not, we need you here. It'll make it easier for you to stay here. I say that to nurses and dental hygienists and therapists and electricians and plumbers and HVAC and sheet metal workers and teachers. We're eliminating all your licensing fees. Eliminating them. It's another reason to start your career in Connecticut. Another reason to stay in Connecticut. You're doing that too. And just as we're bending the curve on pensions and bonded debt, healthcare costs are consuming more and more of our budget, especially Medicaid and pharma. We have the best healthcare in the world if you can afford it. We have great hospitals and health insurance right here. Connecticut should be a leader, so let's take the lead. Our budget includes some initiatives to provide quality, access, and affordability. These are some initiatives that may drive the lobbyists crazy. Here's what you do. Ask them if they have a better idea, and if not, hang tough. I'm working with Comptroller Scanlon, who oversees employee and retiree health care benefits with a focus on quality and saving you money. And we're working with the hospitals to control costs for employee hospitalizations. Our proposed reference pricing at, say, 240% of Medicare for our state employees and retirees would save you out of pocket. It will save taxpayers over $100 million in costs. And paired with the projected increase in our federal Medicaid reimbursements, we're going to make sure our hospitals are made whole. And if you think we're being too bold, this is happening in Maryland and Oregon, even in Ruby Red, Indiana, where they're capping hospital costs. And we've looked at our Medicaid study and highlighted specialties where Medicaid rates need some catching up. So our budget includes an additional $70 million for Medicaid rate increases in those specialties. Come on, Kathy, we can afford it. Our broader study of Connecticut's managed fee-for-service shows we're very competitive when it comes to treating, we're very competitive except when it comes to treating the chronically ill and seniors who seek an alternative to nursing homes. That's where we fall short. So Andrea Bart-Rees is looking at alternatives which provide better wraparound services, allowing you to age at home. And by the way, our pharmaceutical costs have jumped from 10% to 20% of our healthcare spend, doubled as a percentage. And still more people are going to the hospital than ever before. We ask, and the hospitals are blaming the drug companies, the drug companies are blaming the PBMs, and everybody is running to the taxpayer to make up the difference. So unless you have a better idea, I propose that we cap generic drug cost growth at CPI at the rate of inflation. Cap it. The drug companies got their rate of return for innovation during the patent period, and we have held down costs for insulin, and we can hold down costs for your generic drugs as well. You got to step up for that. That'll make a big difference for our people. Big difference. And we'll continue to expand our Array RX discount card, making it easier and cheaper to use, which can save you, say, 50% at the pharmacy counter. Take advantage of the Array RX card. And our budget includes funding to import pharmaceuticals from Canada at less cost, unless tariffs kill that option. Okay, so we have no idea how the feds will impact Medicaid costs. We got the DOJ Commission, and hopefully they're going to root out fraud. That's good. Or they may simply just cost shift Medicaid expenses to the states. That's bad. If all they do is cost shift, DOJ is just a dodge, which could cost our state hundreds of millions of dollars. A dodge. Time will tell. On a happier note, Access Health will be expanding ICHRA on July 1st. What the heck is that? ICHRA is a Trump-era program which reduces healthcare costs for small businesses on the exchange. Take advantage of that. Significant savings for our small businesses. In Connecticut, we will never forget the most vulnerable. And health is often impacted by environment. And we must make sure that those with addiction, mental health needs are taken care of, starting with a place they can call home. The feds are pulling back on rent support, and at the same time, strong demand and little inventory here in Connecticut are driving up housing prices, driving up rents, and driving up homelessness. Attorney General William Tong, he won a case against Purdue Pharma, a purveyor of opioids. And the resulting task force has just approved the use of $58.6 million here in Connecticut, these settlement dollars, to create 500 units of new supportive housing across our state for the homeless and those who face addiction. 500 units of new housing. Selah, where's Selah? Here's Selah. And the Department of Housing is supporting Head Start families who are experiencing homeless. Make sure we take care of those with kids. And Brandon McGee over at the Social Equity Council is providing additional resources for rent support in those communities hardest hit by the war on drugs. It takes a village. And the severe flooding in the Naugatuck Valley 6 months ago destroyed countless homes and businesses. And by the time these folks received the flood warning, those merchants were knee-deep in water. And almost none of them had flood insurance. And thank God for volunteers. They saved the day. Then in came Dan O'Keefe and the team over at Economic and Community Development. They got hundreds of $25,000 checks, helping these merchants get on their feet, helping people get a place to stay. Then along came FEMA, and SBA is beginning to come along as well. But we got to think about this together. How do we plan for these 100-year storms that are coming more and more frequently? One, I've asked our team, don't wait for the feds, let's update the flood map here in Connecticut. All this flooding happened in places that weren't in the flood map. Two, I think all of our insurance brokers should be required to offer flood insurance to each and every one of those homeowners. Andy Mays is working with the insurance guys to see if they'll offer discounts to people that make their homes more resilient. And Garrett Euclidito and team over at DOT, they were brilliant at getting those roads and bridges back, but they had to build them back, not just better, they had to build them back higher to prepare for the next surging river. We will continue our $400 million per year investment in housing. That's workforce housing, affordable housing, supportive housing, multifamily housing. People want to be in Connecticut. People want to move to Connecticut. And the only thing slowing us down is a lack of housing. Last year, we built 70% more housing than just 8 years ago. And we will continue our Time to Own program, which has helped over 5,000 first-time homeowners from Stafford Springs to Danbury buy their first home, building wealth, a long-term stake in their community. Most of that housing is going to be transit-oriented development, making our cities more walkable, less need for a car. New Haven will continue to be our major transportation hub of the state, with a high-speed Amtrak service connecting Boston, New London, New Haven, Bridgeport, Stamford, New York, Grand Central, Penn Station, saving you 15, 30, 40 minutes on your commute. It's going to take some years. We're going to get it done. Transit-oriented housing is being built in the Valley, big time, thanks to more frequent rail service on the Waterbury line, and more housing along the New Britain Fast Track, and in New London, which is booming faster than any time since Moby Dick in the heyday of whaling. And double tracking on the Hartford line will provide faster and more frequent rail service all the way to Windsor Locks and Bradley Airport, which along with Tweed, we have now almost doubled the number of destinations, opening up our state to the rest of the country and the rest of the world, more frequent air service. Look, we're confident that the roadway construction will continue, about $1.5 billion in 2027. That's, say, 50% more than we did just 8 years earlier. Our roads and our bridges will be safer and faster, since many of those choke points will be fixed. Our rail improvements are increasing to $1.2 billion in 2027. That's a threefold increase from just a few years ago. And Connecticut continues to win more per capita allocation from federal dollars because, one, we have more need, a lot of really old bridges. Two, we have pre-designed shovel-ready projects, which is smart. And three, unlike 6 years ago, our transportation fund is fully funded. That means we can make our 80-20 match without contingencies. It's a big deal. But I'm not quite as confident about the ongoing rebuild as I was before. Every day we get another curveball from Washington. Last week, the Federal Department of Transportation circulated a memo notifying us that road and bridge grant making will be subject to some revised economic principles. I read that carefully. Preference would be given to communities where marriage and birth rates are higher than the national average. Okay. We're a little lower than the national average. So my children hurry up, get married, go forth and procreate, and you may get a bridge in your hometown. And this one really got me. Preference will be given to states which implement user pay models. That's French for tolls. You can't make this stuff up. And preference will also be given to communities that comply with immigration objectives specified by the president. That's a little vague. Of course, our cops round up the bad guys, regardless of immigration status, and we get the bad guys off the street, and we work with any federal authorities to keep us safe. We don't waste time on the immigration status of speeders and shoplifters, and our teachers don't ask the immigration status of their students. They're pretty busy teaching. As I said before, I want all of our kids, regardless of background, to feel safe in our schools. And just between us, we have an equity and opportunity officer here in the state of Connecticut. Her name is Mariana Montero, who makes sure that we do the very broadest outreach from all neighborhoods, all backgrounds, so not just the usual suspects are the only ones applying to be a traffic engineer or a nurse or a commissioner or a judge. Talent is everywhere, right, Doug? Opportunity's got to be extended as well. And Mariana, Argentina's loss was Connecticut's gain. And she honed her skills at outreach at a couple of woke companies here in Connecticut, like Sikorsky, which makes attack helicopters, and Pratt & Whitney, which makes fighter jets. You know why they do that outreach? They want to make sure the very best engineers, regardless of background, are there at the table, able to do the work, and so do we. Mariana, you're our director of meritocracy. Thank you for what you're doing. And one last thing, while we're securing the southern border, we almost got to remember that the Statue of Liberty is not some old, rusted steel relic, but it's a symbol for dreamers around the world yearning to breathe free. America is a symbol of hope and opportunity. That's what makes us strong. That's what makes America great. These are the values I will fight for every day. God bless the great state of Connecticut and our enduring values.
Thank you so much, Governor Lamont. At this time, I will ask the clerk if there is any remaining business. And that would be, and we're going to go to Bob Duff.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, would the clerk please call a joint convention resolution number 39, please?
Joint convention.
Mr. Clerk.
Joint convention resolution number 39, resolution concerning the printing of the governor's message.
All right, Senator Duff.
Thank you, Madam